opportunity to speak who wants to speak? Excuse me, like that. Okay, we want to give everybody the opportunity to speak and want to speak. So if you have not filled out one of these forms with specifically what you're going to say, I mean, what you're going to talk about, generally what you're going to talk about, we need to have that done. So is there anyone here that's still in that process? Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Frazee. I'm the chair of the Citizens Review Board on Police Practices for the City of San Diego. Welcome to all of you. This is great. We've never had this kind of participation from the community before. It gives us an opportunity to tell you, the community, what it is that we do as 23 members of this community. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's okay.
I want to tell you something about the Citizens Review Board on Police Practices first. And I have a little The Citizens Review Board on Police Practices was established in 1988 to review serious allegations against San Diego Police Department officers, review all officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths, and to review the administration of discipline in cases of sustained allegations. Additionally, the board makes pertinent policy and procedure recommendations to the chief of police and the mayor. Over the past 5 years, the board typically sees about 75 cases each year. The board work is done by an organization made up of 23 citizen volunteers supported by a half-time city staff person. These volunteer board members average about 20 hours per month, conducting case review, case presentation, board meetings, committee work, and training amassing about 5,000 hours annually. All complaints are directed initially to the San Diego Police Department Internal Affairs Unit, whether they come to us as the citizens, whether they come to Janelle's office, or whether they come through the police department, whichever way they come through. Internal Affairs investigates those serious complaints against foreign police officers. Those complaints include force, arrest, slur, discrimination, and criminal conduct. Less serious complaints which contain courtesy, service, or procedural allegations are referred by Internal Affairs to the divisions where the incident took place. The investigation and disposition of the less serious complaints are handled by the commanding officer of that particular division. Once that investigation is complete by the Internal Affairs investigators, a 3-member team from the Citizens Review Board then review these investigations to ensure complete, thorough, fair, and impartial investigations have been conducted. The teams also review the homicide investigations in officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths. We have a truly civilian model, placing citizens in an oversight role that has been effective, efficient, and productive for this city since 1988. Nothing's held back by the police department, and I can tell you that board members are never shy about asking questions or requiring further investigation. Policy changes in pursuits, prisoner restraint, money handling, and use of force have been positively impacted as a result of board recommendations. On the back, there are brochures that more closely identify what the board does, what they do, and also complaint forms, citizen complaint forms. They're back there on the table. So, having heard that, I'm going to open it up. Let's see, just make sure. The first part of business is minutes approval. For the board, the open meeting of November 22nd, 2011, I'll entertain a motion.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, all those in favor of the minutes as written, signify by saying aye. public comment. We have the speaker slips up here. I need to read a little bit of something for you so that you know what the rules are that we have to live by and that you'll have to go by. If you wish to address the board in any manner within the jurisdiction, you do so during public comment. You completed speaker slips. We'll listen to your comments. However, California open meeting laws don't permit the board to take any action on the matter at today's meeting. At its discretion, the board can refer the matter to staff, to a board committee for discussion and/or resolution, or place the matter on a future board agenda. The board can hear specific complaints against named individual officers at open meetings. That's very important. Your complaints against individual officers are confidential under the state of California law. So any general impressions or general suggestions we'll be glad to look at. The board will not ask questions, so you will have a total of you'll have 5 minutes for each individual, and I'll do the timing. So,
sure. So could we please have Mike Garcia step up first? And okay, we'd like to have you come up in the space here. The sound in this room isn't the greatest. That's the easiest place for us to hear. So just a reminder that you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Mike Garcia. I'm 48 years old. I am employed. I am not without a home. I live in La Mesa. I have been involved with the Occupy San Diego movement since October 7th. I have 2 questions for this board. Do you know who is ordering the San Diego Police Department to violate the rights of the people of San Diego who are at the Civic Center, now known as Freedom Plaza? And B, what are you going to do about it? Since late October, someone ordered the San Diego Police Department to barricade the Civic Center property and arrest people who are identified as occupiers on a couple of charges. One being 54.0110. That code is known as encroachment. If you're not familiar with that code, the encroachment statute says, in essence, that you are not allowed to erect basketball hoops, plant gardens, or erect dumpsters on city property. None of that is going on in Freedom Plaza. I personally was arrested on 54.0110 for sitting in a chair and passing out free speech material. The effect of this action by the San Diego Police Department is twofold and intentional. One, to clear the plaza of people who are fighting for our rights, for social and economic justice, and 2, to keep the greater area, the people of the greater area of San Diego to come from this plaza and show their support for this movement. On October 7th, there were nearly 5,000 people who marched to Civic Center Plaza from Children's Park in support of Occupy San Diego. Where are those people now? Have they changed their mind about what they feel about this movement? No. I talk to these people, and they tell me they don't come to Freedom Plaza because they are in fear of the police department arresting them and losing their jobs. That's why they don't come. The next issue is more of a personal issue. Well, a couple of days ago, or about a week ago, myself and several people were arrested for interrupting the mayor's State of the City address. And if you saw what happened, it's not any different than when Congressman Joe Wilson interrupted the President of the United States during his State of the Union address and stated to him, "You lie." Now, he received a lot of criticism for that. He also received a lot of support for that. But he was not arrested for that. We were charged with interrupting a meeting. Okay, fine, we did interrupt that meeting. But we were also charged with a felony conspiracy to commit a crime, which has a 3 to 5 year prison sentence attached to it. Now, I sought the advice of an attorney, and that attorney told me that in no way will the district attorney allow these charges to stand. And so I left the city of San Diego, and I went to Washington, D.C. to participate in a national movement of Occupy. During that trip, I went to the Holocaust Museum. And at that Holocaust Museum, I saw one of the most important aspects of how a government crushes the rights of its people. And it uses the police department to do that. And if this board allows the police department to snuff out the rights of the individuals who are fighting for economic justice, then this board isn't worth the charter its paper is written on.
1 minute left.
In that final minute, I would like to plead to this board to find out who is issuing these orders, these illegal orders, and make a report to the people of San Diego and bring this matter out into the open so that it can be discussed and debated, and we can, as a community, come together so that the San Diego Police Department is not put in the position of violating people's civil rights. Because I speak to these police officers, and I know many of them do not like being in this position. They tell me constantly, I am only following orders. Thank you.
Next is Shannon Smith. Oh, Mr. Shannon Smith, I'm sorry.
Me personally, about a month and a half ago, was arrested for public intoxication after consuming an ounce and a half of wine from an open bar that serves at the theater. There was a snot drinking going on. And wrongfully arrested, harassed by the sheriffs inside the jail for being part of Occupy. That's just my personal experience. Overall, in general, I have witnessed so many unlawful orders, wrongful arrest, police brutality, and even today, 2 officers I have on film on my Android phone telling a homeless woman that was somewhere 50 or 60, she looked old, I don't know how old, but telling her that she couldn't have her flight get wrapped around her and had to take her shopping cart away from the area because of the occupiers. So now they are going after the homeless people as well in response to hatred for the Occupy movement. I don't find that professional. I don't find that way of protecting and serving the public. I think that should be looked at and something should be done about it. Thank you.
Lynn, is it Lissette?
Right.
Lesson.
Good evening, President, board members, and fellow occupiers and guests. How many of you would look at me and think I was homeless? Well, I am. I was homeless on October 10, 2011 due to circumstances that have arisen in my life. I have a college degree in physical education. I own my own business, a coffee shop for 5 years that I lost because of a judicial judge who was my mother-in-law who had a lot of power. And I found myself homeless on October 10th and went into a shelter to try to get in for my first night on October 10th, and I was turned away. I found Occupy, and when I read the declaration of their movement, it fit to many things that have gone on in my life. I have a story to tell. Have any of you been homeless, or any of your family members or your friends been homeless? Do you know anything about what it's like being homeless out there in San Diego. Well, it's not very fun. There's no bathrooms to go to, no showers to use. You have to follow strict rules and regulations when you go to a lot of the shelters. A lot of these people are old veterans, no legs, no arms. And you know how they get treated by the San Diego Police Department? With utter disrespect. 2 nights before Christmas, I was camped out 4 blocks away from the Occupy movement at Civic Center Plaza under a bridge, 6 feet away from a trolley going 60 miles an hour on a cold, dark night. At 5:20 in the morning, 2 sheriff department vehicles pull up, jumping out of their car like we're some mass terrorists sleeping by this fast-moving trolley 2 days before Christmas on a cold, dark morning. They detained us for 2 hours, like clowns, like circus clowns. They were there at 5:20. They signed my ticket at 6:21. These gentlemen, I asked them if their names were going to be on my ticket, all 5 of them with their badge numbers, and they told me they were. Do you know my ticket doesn't have one signed name on it? Last night was a rainy, cold night, and I went back to Occupy to sleep under a little ledge and was harassed and intimidated again by the San Diego Police Department. Get up. You can't sleep here. You can't close your eyes. Do you know that illegal lodging code 647E says that a homeless person in San Diego can sleep between 9 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. without being intimidated or harassed by the San Diego Police Department? They don't know that law. Well, anyway, last night they left, we got up, and all of a sudden some more police come in about an hour later, and they tell us we need to leave, we can't have anything on the ground, blah, 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 blah. I asked the police officer what the code was for me placing something on the ground. And you know what this lady told me? She didn't have time to discuss it with me. She didn't have time to tell me why I couldn't do that. Well, you know what? I went somewhere, I slept last night, and I came back and the same lady was there. She sat there all night talking to her buddy, probably doing absolutely nothing, maybe eating donuts or bagels. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to the police review board today. I need your name and badge number. And I called her a police officer, and she said, I'm not a police officer, I'm a sergeant. Well, you know what, a lay person that has no idea what a police officer and how you can indicate whether they're sergeants or not, I didn't know. And I'm like, ma'am, to me, you're a police officer. I don't know how to tell if you're a sergeant or not, but you're a police officer with an ego. She gave me her badge number, her name, but utterly disrespectful. I implore each of you board members today to either go live on the street for a week and see what it's like to be homeless and intimidated and harassed, or to listen to us and take into account what we're trying to bring to the table. There is something terribly wrong with the San Diego Police Department, and it needs to be confronted. And I challenge each of you today, and I implore you to do your job, to take action, and to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please don't clap, so just listen and let us help.
Next, Ben Katz.
Is there a rule against talking, sir?
It's fine. We can make it bigger.
Hi, I'm Ben Katz. I'm a small business owner, father in San Diego. And in many ways, not really I've never spent a night down in the Civic Center. The issues that a lot of these people here are facing with economic challenges don't affect me. I'm well off. It was really the actions of the San Diego Police Department that got me to come out. See, I'm Jewish, and one of the things I saw raised freedom of speech is what keeps us as a society, as a country, away from going down the wrong path. That it doesn't matter who people are. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or disagree with them. That, bizarrely enough, I was raised to believe that neo-Nazis marching in the street is a critical factor to our free society, that everybody, no matter what you think of their ideas, needs the right to speak. And so when I saw the San Diego Police Department taking action, trying to shut down people's right to free speech, I said, I need to get involved. I need to document what they're doing. I need to really stand up and say this is wrong. It doesn't matter if you think the issues that they're speaking about is important. It doesn't matter if you think they're effective. What matters is that they have the right to speak. And when I see what the San Diego Police Department is doing right now, I see an attack on free speech. I see an attack on what's going on right now, day after day, week after week, in the Civic Center, right in front of our City Hall, is an attack. What the police are doing is taking laws that sit on the book, that are rarely or never enforced, and using selective enforcement to go after people because of what they're saying. They're using 540110, encroachment. Now, encroachment, if you've read this code, it's actually a pretty badly written code. It basically says if you put your bag down on the sidewalk while talking to a friend, you can be cited or arrested. If you're at the beach and you lay down a beach towel, you're encroaching on public space. If you're at a park and you set up a folding chair and sit in it, you're encroaching in public space. Now, none of us would expect to be ticketed, let alone arrested and rolled to jail for any of these things at any of these locations. But that's what's happening to these people here. That's what's happening. People are getting arrested for setting up chairs and sitting in them in public places. People are getting their bags confiscated for putting them on the ground. And it's not just encroachment. It's misapplication of noise ordinances. It is 5330. 5330 has to do with carrying a weapon during a public march. The weapon that was confiscated, that was the American flag. Now, it doesn't, you have a veterans parade. You would be disgusted if the police went in and confiscated their flag. At the Martin Luther King parade, we would all be up in arms if the police swooped in and started taking people's flags. But it's happening to these people. Why aren't we up in arms? Why aren't we angry at our police force for doing this?
Here, here.
Is it because of what they stand for? Is it because some of them are homeless? It shouldn't matter. It's wrong to selectively enforce the law on certain people because of what they stand for, because of what they're saying. I'll just give you one more example and then I'll step down here. On December 25th, some of the occupiers set up a tree in the Civic Center plaza. Set up a Jewish, not a big deal to me. But the police came in and took that tree. Again, using the encroachment law. Reasonable on a certain level, except for earlier that month, a group of Republican activists set up a tree for the Lincoln Club, filmed a skit in almost the exact same location. The police were there. They did nothing in that case. This is wrong. This is selective enforcement. This is discriminatory, and I beg all of you who come here, volunteer time. I can't thank you enough for that. But this is the time that really all of us in San Diego really need to step up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Martha Sullivan.
Orange Terrace. I'm also a small business owner who's based in Sereno Valley. And I've been a supporter of the local Occupy movement since really late September, because we were planning our initial march. And I'm here because for me, the intimidation and repression of free speech that's happened at our City Center Plaza is unfortunately an echo of the very same thing that happened 100 years ago. We are this month and next month commemorating the 100th anniversary of what's known as the free speech fight. This is when the San Diego City Council passed an ordinance that banned free speech on the corners of downtown San Diego by union organizers. They were using soapboxes, literally, to stand on the street corners and talk to their fellow citizens about issues of concern to their fellow citizens, about the quality of life, about economic issues. The city council passed an ordinance to ban free speech in downtown San Diego, and people who continue to exercise their First Amendment rights were arrested, they were beaten in custody, and at least one of them was murdered. So we're right now experiencing a similar attempt to ban free speech in downtown San Diego. I've witnessed it myself. I've been threatened with it myself. I actually came to Civic Center Plaza about 2 weeks ago to hold a press conference before we submitted a ballot proposal to the San Diego City Council in accordance with their rules to suggest a modification to the encroachment code that occurred in the plaza. When I came to the plaza, I had literally a soapbox that had letters on it that said free speech. I set it down on the part of the plaza, which is actually private, in which another section of the municipal code provides an exception for peaceful picketing, lawful labor activities, and peaceful political activities. A police officer came over and told me that I couldn't set my soapbox down on the plaza, that I couldn't leave it there. I actually showed him the press release that cited that section in the municipal code that allows those activities to happen on the private part of the plaza. And he still insisted that the encroachment law covered the whole plaza. I pressed on, and it just so happened that his supervisor, sergeant, walking across the plaza, because we never have a lack of police presence in the Civic Center Plaza now, including sergeants and lieutenants. And after some consultation, that sergeant wisely recognized that I was right, and that our free speech rights are guaranteed in the private area of the plaza, and privately operated premises. So the ballot proposal that we submitted to the City Council about 2 weeks ago for their consideration was to include that same provision for public premises, to include the guarantee that we insist for privately operated premises to include it for public premises. So I provided a copy of an article about at the time, in late December, there were 29 arrests and only 29 people being charged. It's now probably about 150 arrests of occupied members. And probably not much more than 29 people were actually charged. So that seems to be pretty clear. It's a pattern not of enforcing the law, a pattern of intimidation and harassment and suppression. And so I unfortunately didn't know what a large ordinance is, so I didn't bring enough copies. This includes the UT article about those excessive arrests and the low amount of charges, and it also includes our principal matter. I would encourage this board to propose, at a minimum, fair that that change be made, that we equalize the guarantee of San Diego's free speech rights across all property, whether it's privately operated or publicly operated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Patricia Gracian. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. And then after Patricia is going to be Kramer.
I'm a resident of Claremont, and once a month I take a trip down to the city center, specifically to sign up voters, to register voters, because like other fellow Americans, we are anxious that our voices be heard, and that everyone that has a right to have their voices heard will be heard. At that time, once a month, at least two major parties come and set up a large tent with tables, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen chairs, with placards, and we sign up voters. This I presume is acceptable because it has been going on for years in the Civic Center Plaza. And I was very shocked to learn that a respectable former candidate for Congress was arrested for trying to sign up voters in a perfectly legal way. And this, again, is part of what we are all so upset about. There is definitely selective enforcement of the law happening. And it is all against the occupying movement. I do not know why this is being done so vindictively, but it's crystal clear that if people come under the guise of some politics that they like, they do nothing, and yet when somebody does exactly the same thing with different politics perhaps, they enforce the law to the fullest. This gentleman, Ray Lutz, was arrested for trying to sign up voters. Midstream, he was signing up a voter at the time. They interrupted the process. I find this reprehensible. I beg you to do something about this vindictive treatment of these people. Thank you very much.
Kramer, and then next will be Michael Dennison.
I want to start off by saying thanks for being here and your part in everything you do, and all your time with this. I also want to say that since Occupy San Diego has started, it's got the 6th highest number of arrests in the nation, the smallest occupation in the nation. That's really lovely. I just got back from our nation's capital. These are absolutely phenomenal. There's a 6-story marble slab statue of the First Amendment. But here in San Diego, we wrote down the First Amendment on a piece of cardboard. She did the quotations, and she didn't say it was the First Amendment. A police officer looked at her and said, "Did you just make this up?" Don't they swear in on this? Also, I want to say that there's a 44-year-old woman who was honking her more accessibly when she saw San Diego PD going by here in her 3rd grade on Occupy San Diego. She was ripped out of her car and slammed to the ground and arrested. A noise ordinance. Was it a noise ordinance, or was she being targeted for warning people that they were about to be raided at 3 in the morning while they were asleep? They're about to be raided when you're supposed to be offered a bed. There's an available bed in the city. However, we were told the cops are no longer going to follow that rule because when they offered beds and brought people to a shelter that they claimed had beds, the people laughed. The police obviously must not have seen a YouTube video where it was recorded them being dropped off in the shelter saying, "We don't know why you were brought here. There are no available beds in the city of San Diego." If there are no available beds and those people are allowed to sleep between those hours at night when the law says they can. At least that's how I understand the situation. I've also seen a 51-year-old woman body slammed to the ground for touching caution tape. And I'm really glad it happened at the time the theater was on intermission, so they have to come out and see this happening in the plaza. The police brutality is excessive. It doesn't mirror what our nation's capital does. It doesn't mirror what the Constitution was written about. This continues to go on. And I ask that if you came down there, would you feel safe? But I also ask, is there anything going on in our government that you would like to have a say about? And you might not feel safe and then have a space to come do that. What happened? When our people felt repressed, they moved west, they landed in Plymouth Rock. The way I look at it, we occupied everything from Plymouth Rock to San Diego. There's no more moving west. We're as left as we can go, and all we can do is stand up. And we're not going to do that right. Maybe we're too far from DC, and our police don't know how to act. Maybe there haven't been enough flashbacks and lawsuits here like there were in DC. But something needs to happen with any power. I am worried. Please. Thank you.
It's Tara, so I'm going to speak up a little louder so y'all can hear me. I am an electrical engineer, so I've had a little bit of education. I know how to do research. My favorite thing to do is check up on history. I'm a history buff. We're seeing today something that we have seen in the past, and most people, as they did back then, choose to ignore it with their blinders on. We're seeing the economy trashed out and the rise of more violence inflicted upon our citizens as they're following their guaranteed civil rights, supposedly. And we've seen this before, pre-World War II Nazi Germany. We've got pictures, we've got movies, we've got evidence of police malfeasance, that they're using violence over using their authority, overstepping their authority, and we've seen this all before. The rise of fascism in this country is coming. If people wake up, learn your history instead of ignoring it, you'll see that unless something is said or done, we are further down that road than most people would have been. Welcome to the Fourth Reich. We need to stop, we need to rein in our overbearing police forces. They're like attack dogs which have been let off their leash. They need to be reined in and reintroduced to the Constitution. Not only the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence. Reread those things, see what they say, and then apply it to today's reality, and come back and tell people what you think. I personally think, and I'm standing up here saying it, that we need to reboot our democracy. Where we're going with this, allowing people not to have free speech rights, being harassed and oppressed, this should not be happening in an open, free democracy, which we call ourselves. So, I have relatives who fought and died to keep this country what it was designed to be, not to be perverted into what it is becoming. I am a veteran, and I swore when I signed up that I would defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Now I'm saying domestic ones just go away. Here's where we need to start waking up and seeing this going on and perhaps doing something about it. Unless, of course, we want to repeat history and just start marching in the lockstep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baker. And next is J.C. Playford, after Adrian. State.
Hi, my name's Adrian Bertelli. I have been at the Occupy site on and off. I'm a member of the National Lawyers Guild, so I have been legal observing. Or seen a legal observer. It's we wear bright neon green hats that clearly say National Lawyers Guild Legal Observer. And I mean, I'm going to echo what a lot of people have said is that much of this police behavior, and with the caveat that I haven't been there to see all of it, but I have taken many witness statements. I've seen a lot of video, and a lot of videos available to you as well on YouTube. Much of this police activity is just blatant First Amendment violations. The police use clear intimidation tactics. It's obvious to me as somebody who is educated on the laws and criminal procedure that they are not Some of these things, sometimes the intimidation tactics they use may be legal, but they're certainly inappropriate. There's no reason for taxpayer money to go toward police officers videotaping every person's face at a feminist Friday meeting. There is no reason for a group of 10 police officers, and I did witness this myself, surround a peaceful group of homeless people and tell them to not abandon their property or they would be arrested. Although they didn't say abandon, people have been, because police have been hearing what the police say, that they may think 54.0110 says it's not about policing down something on the ground, it prohibits abandoning property. I haven't seen anybody abandoning property, but as other speakers have said, people have been arrested for things that are not violations of the municipal code at all. Sitting down in a chair, putting down a tomato plant, and people are harassed and arrested and threatened with arrest for things that aren't breaking the law. And I have yet to see a police officer arrest one of the deputy city attorneys for placing down a cup of coffee, which is the same behavior that people are being arrested and threatened for. The arrests, I mean, the fact that that the vast majority of the arrests and these arrests that have been coupled with brutality. I had a client who did not have charges filed against him, but he was left with injuries from the second arrest. I'm curious to know about whether these police officers even submitted reports. But for the vast majority of these cases, the prosecutors may have looked at whatever evidence there may have been and decided it just didn't pass the smell test. From what I know and just the police behavior I've seen and the witness statements I've taken and the video footage, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that most of these arrests have been unlawful. I was battered myself by a police officer. I was trying to videotape an arrest, and Officer McCoy, although I don't know if he really is Officer McCoy because he hadn't had his identification covered, on December 12th, pushed me away. I was standing on a public sidewalk, and he pushed his hands on me, and he pushed me away and said, "You can't come here. Thank you for your cooperation."
1 minute also.
There have been many incidents of people being battered by police for videotaping in public. There's a video of YouTube after somebody is violently arrested and thrown to the ground for doing nothing wrong. He's backing away from the police, unlawfully arresting people for laying on the ground. They clothesline him, drag him away, and the police officer runs up to the person videotaping and pushes him backwards. And to my knowledge, none of these police officers are being prosecuted for battery, but they're victims in some cases. They're being prosecuted. And if you're not worried about the police violence, and it's happening almost on a weekly, if not weekly or more basis, and frankly, I'm very worried about people's safety. People have been seriously injured by the police officers here. If you're not worried about the possibility of more people being injured or even killed by these police officers, at least worry about the civil liability. And I hope that everybody who's been unlawfully arrested and had to post bond for stemming out of unlawful arrest does file a claim with the city, because they should be compensated for the injuries that they've suffered. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. J.C. Clayford, and next will be Andrew Fisher.